Hey there, mudroomers, it is Carmen here, and I just wanted to make a quick video today because I've been doing a lot of test tiles using our Mudcrack glazes, and I know the usage of these can be a little bit inconsistent due to the fact that they thicken up in the bottle over time. So I just wanted to kind of directly address the mixing and application of these two products so that you will have an easier time with your application. So to begin, I have already mixed up some Mudcrack here. So when I got this and I opened the jar, it was completely solid with a little bit of a water head on it. I had to break it up with a stick, add a little bit of water. I used an immersion blender to help mix it up because that sometimes it can get a little bit chunky. I did have to remove some, put it in another container, and then add even more water. So just be prepared. That's kind of how it goes sometimes. Think of it like you get some extra Mudcrack glaze with every pint. But this is the consistency that I settled with. It's still pretty thick, but definitely workable. The main thing that I like to pay attention to is the fact that it's nice and smooth and that my brush will move through it. So when I apply it, it's not going to be chunky or anything like that, but it doesn't plop off my brush. It stays on there. So it's kind of like a pudding consistency. Sometimes we recommend it to be the thickness of a heavy cream. If you have a brand new, freshly bottled bottle, that is definitely what you're gonna get. And in that instance, you might want to apply 3 to 5 coats. But really the key to Mudcrack is getting it to be brushable and to pay attention to the application as you're doing it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start applying the glaze onto here, or the textured product, I suppose. And I'm just gonna apply one coat and watch it dry, and we'll see what comes of it there. So this is a really, really thick product here, so I'm gonna kind of like glob it around and then spread it nice and thin. And as you might be able to tell, it kind of dries pretty quickly. So we'll just kind of let this dry. It should happen pretty fast. Unfortunately, the white is really hard to see. Alright, I'm not sure if we can tell here, but see, we are starting to get cracks already. So this is a nice and consistent Mudcrack pattern, but some of these are a little bit thinner than I want. This is kind of like my ideal cracking consistency, and this is probably not going to show up with very much texture. So paying attention to the way that this dried here, I think that I'm going to go ahead and add another coat, and I will show you what happens from there. So since I'm already getting a nice consistent cracking pattern, I don't want to put it on super thick. So I'm just going to kind of drag it in the areas that might need it and kind of over the areas that are already where I want them, just so it's going on evenly. So that's like, with this thickness, I guess so far I've applied basically 1.5 coats. So we're getting that really fast drying again. And this is a little bit more like I'm going to want it. So you can see how this is all cracking. Some are even peeling up a little bit. That's pretty normal to happen with this product, just to have the little edges rolling up. But you don't want anything too extreme. So this looks really nice. I'm gonna add one more coat on the top to kind of showcase what you don't want. So since this is gonna be what we don't want, I'm just gonna put one nice good coat on there. It's gonna start drying really quickly, and it'll basically start peeling off of my piece before I even would put it in the kiln. So again, this bottom pattern is pretty much the perfect thickness, and depending on the thickness of your Mudcrack when you're done mixing it is going to depend on how many coats you need to apply. So the main thing that you want to pay attention to is going to be the drying consistency more so than the wet glaze consistency. So you can see here we're starting to get that thicker Mudcrack peeling off. If this doesn't all pop off before it dries, I think I'm going to go ahead and fire this just to show you, because sometimes these big chunks don't fall off and sometimes they do. So that's why it's kind of safe to stay with this bottom thickness here. And so this I'm applying directly to the bisque. Typically that is how we recommend applying it, although we have had talk of customers applying with underglazes or using colors with it to have it be a different color or layering it on a glaze. So actually, with all these Mudcrack tests that I've done recently, we have that. So I'm going to be making a video very soon to kind of inform everyone about my results and the best way to color all of our texture glazes. So we have our Mudcracks as well as our magmas. I've tested them with stoneware glazes, stroken coats, underglazes, and gloss glazes. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, so this guy's drying. I'm gonna pop it in the kiln today, and I'll show you guys what it looks like when it's out of the kiln. Again, like I kind of explained earlier, this is gonna be your safe space when it comes to drying consistency. That's just something you have to kind of pay attention to. As you apply the glaze. This is a risky business here, but I'm gonna get it in the kiln before I knock all of these off. So typically once this starts peeling up, I'll kind of just set it in the kiln so I'm not bumping it or anything like that before it dries all the way, because as it dries more and more, the more fragile it gets. So fingers crossed. I'm going to put a kiln brick underneath this just in case we have any mishaps. Definitely recommend using cookies or any safety measures. If you have a really nice kiln wash like Mayco's kiln wash, then it's a lot easier to clean your shelves after you might have a little mishap with any sort of glaze application. So I'm going to go put this in the kiln right now, and I will share the results when we unload it. Hello everybody, I am back with the fired results from the Mudcrack test that I did. So here we have it. Like I had sort of anticipated, this whole top chunk did end up popping off in the kiln. Luckily, we have some awesome kiln wash and kiln bricks that saved our shelves here. So this area did pop off and even pulled some of this along with it. But down here where I had mentioned that it was a really good consistency, all stayed on, and they actually fuse really, really well to the bisque here. So it is nice and soft, no sharp edges or anything like that, and very much adhered to the surface. So this area was kind of like the perfect consistency when it came to how it was cracking while it dried. Here it was a little bit thin. I didn't have as deep of cracks, so you can see the Mudcrack pattern is much finer in those areas. I could have spot treated it and left this how it was and maybe added a little bit more here and there, but that just kind of goes to show you how important it is for you to be really paying attention to how this product is drying on the surface of your piece, because that's really going to affect the application. It's really hard to say always apply 3 coats, because the product is different consistencies based on how old it is, as well as how you may have mixed it up. So like earlier in this video, I had a really thick consistency, so that's something I really pay attention to. If you are able to shake it to be the correct consistency, it's not going to be quite as important for you to pay such close attention to the drying. But more often than not, you are going to have to reconstitute this product and pay very close attention to how it dries as you apply it, so that you can get really nice beautiful and consistent results that don't end up all over your shelves. So thanks so much for tuning in today, guys. I really hope that this was super helpful. We get a lot of questions about Mudcrack because it is kind of a strange product and it's very sensitive to the user application. So I hope that this was helpful for everybody, and as always, give us a like and subscribe to us on YouTube, and definitely check our channel out for different videos. We have all sorts of education videos based on different product lines that we try to keep nice and organized, as well as technique videos. So thanks so much for tuning in today, guys, and as always, make it Mayco.